they very much stayed within their circle versus like, someone like me who didn't come from that stuff. It's very hard to, keep up with them.
Hey guys, it's your host Eliana. Welcome back to another episode of your Vibe Tribe. And I want to introduce Gabby.
Hi, y'all. I'm Gabby. I don't know. So right now I'm a college student and I go to A&M. I'm a senior, so I'll be graduating in May. I'm very excited about that. I'm also a first-gen student. I currently live in Houston, Texas, but right now I'm in College Station. But I'm actually from Detroit, Michigan. So interesting.
Oh my gosh. Wait, you're graduating in May already?
It's
so
insane.
soon.
I can't believe it because like everyone's already talking about like getting their big girl jobs and like moving. And I've seen a couple people getting married and having kids. That's a little scary.
Oh my God. Well, that makes sense. Yeah, I feel like nowadays people are like living their lives like so quickly. So
Yeah, and social media, like
that's
just seeing
wild.
everything too is crazy.
Oh my gosh, well that's exciting. We'll get into college. We connected again through, I feel like most of the people I've interviewed now for some reason have been from the Miss Lifestyler. Wait, we connected from there too, right? That's how
Yeah,
you
we
saw
did.
my podcast. Okay. Yeah, amazing. Like I owe so much to that blog. But so yeah, we like met, you messaged me and I know that you wanted to like talk about like your point of view as like a first generation Latina. So I just kind of wanted to see like if you could talk about your background, like where you're from, or like well, you said Detroit, but like your like nationality, like where your parents are from and all of that.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'm excited. Sorry, my earrings fell off. But yeah, is there any like singular place you want to start?
Yeah, like if you just want to, so like so were you born in Detroit, Michigan, or were you born in another country? You were born here, right?
I was born in Detroit, Michigan. My dad, he
Okay.
is from San Ignacio, Jalisco in Mexico. And then my mom,
Okay.
she was born some other town in Michigan because she's Native American and Mexican too.
Okay.
So
Oh wow. Oh my God, I'm sure she's beautiful. I
yeah,
mean,
no,
you're
I
beautiful,
honestly
but
get so many
that's
comments
such a
saying I
beautiful
look like
mix.
her, and like, I mean, obviously I know my mom's beautiful. It's a compliment, but I'm like, I want to be my own person. I don't want to look like my mom.
Oh my gosh. I swear. Wait, how old are you?
I'm 21.
21. Oh my gosh. I feel like I would always say like, ugh, I don't want to end up like my mom. Like I'm not my mom. I'm my own person. And like, dude, it's like every year that comes along, I'm like, oh my God, I'm literally her.
No, literally, I
Like
catch myself doing a
so
lot of this
many
stuff
things.
like that, I did or she did, and it's just like we're too similar.
Yeah. Always. It always happens. It's inevitable. I mean, some things you're like, okay, I can like differentiate, but it's so crazy how that happens. It's like you can't help
I
it.
know, and people really end up becoming like so much like their parents, and it's just like we're just raising ourselves at this point. You're raising little mini me's.
Literally. Literally scary, but all right, that's so cool. Okay, so you're Mexican and Native American then.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool. And so you grew up in Detroit, Michigan?
Yeah, I did. So I was there from obviously birth until like I want to say like I was 7 years old, and then my mom, it was after my parents divorced. My mom decided she wanted to move
Okay.
down to Texas because she said whenever she passed by the state, when she wanted to get to Mexico, she always thought it was really pretty. And so we finally moved down here, and I've been here ever since. But I do go back to Michigan like once or twice a year to go see my family over there.
Nice. How old were you when your parents divorced?
I was really young, so honestly, I was like probably 3 or 4.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't even have a memory of
Oh,
them really
okay.
together. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, that sounds so sad when I said it out loud, but I'm like,
No, but I mean, to me, it sounds like, okay. I mean, I mean, for me, it's like almost better because it's like, oh, like, your parents just like separately, like as like, oh, that's my dad, that's my mom, like not necessarily as like someone who's like in a relationship. Like, I don't know. I don't think that's a bad thing.
yeah, no, because I have like my oldest sister, me and her are 8 years different. So she was like maybe like 13 when my parents separated. And so like her perspective on it is
Okay.
way different from like mine because I wasn't as like emotional, like, oh, I miss this and that. And I'm just like, I don't know what that is. I just know
Yeah.
them separately.
Yeah. That's interesting. Okay. Dang. So, okay. So you're in Detroit, Michigan. What made you did you move to Texas before college, like with your mom?
Yeah, I did because she wanted to bring us all down
Okay.
here. So I was like in second grade, and I mean the school. It was just such a different like culture because when I came here, like I was around. So okay, in Detroit, I was a part of this little community, Mexican town. That's the part where it's like a lot of Mexicans, as the name suggests.
Okay.
Yeah, and so there's definitely a lot of minorities over there. And then when I came here, there was a lot more, to put it in the most blunt way, white people. And I was just like
Yeah.
I was very surprised. And I saw like people, they went on vacations regularly.
In
They,
Houston.
huh?
In Houston, right?
Yeah,
That's
in
where you
Houston.
moved
Yeah,
to?
because
That's so surprising.
yeah, well, I was in the suburbs of Houston, Cypress. So it's a little bit more,
Oh, okay,
yeah,
okay.
suburbia type of vibes. And so like I mean, I knew
Yeah.
so many girls who like went on vacations, they were in cheerleading, they did like so many sports and attended church camp every summer. Like it was a lot, way different culture than I was
Oh my gosh,
expecting.
yeah.
So that was like huge and getting used to it. I mean, even now sometimes like I'm just like, what? Like this doesn't make any sense. Now, yeah, I feel Texan, but I don't feel like exactly there.
Yeah, I mean it's so different. I mean it's crazy and people don't even like realize that. Like someone, oh gosh, I'm the worst. I always do that. People who are in like different socioeconomic backgrounds, they don't like even realize like how much of a difference like it is and just like everyday things like that. Like I remember too like getting to college and like or just meeting girls like I did like a random program it's called Avatar. It's like a
Mm-hmm.
personal development program. I did it when I was young and I got to meet people from like different backgrounds and like it's an expensive program. It was like gifted to me. But the people I would meet, it's like, yeah, I go to Kansas in the summer and I do this and I play all these sports and I go to the country club and like that's such like a different world when you hear that when you're not from that kind of like economic background. So yeah, I can definitely see how it would have been like, oh my gosh, this is so weird.
Yeah, and like to me, I would call like everybody rich. Pretty much everyone around me, I'd be like, if you don't live in apartments, you're rich to me because I lived in apartments for the longest time growing up. And so like if I saw that they had like not just a one story, but like a
Mhm.
2-story house, like 5 bedrooms and like master bathrooms and all that, I'd be like, oh, you're
Oh, you have
rich, you're
money.
rich, dude. And so it was
That's
like
so
weird because then
crazy.
I felt
Yeah.
like there were moments where mainly when I got into like middle school and high school where I knew like the difference between people who didn't come from that background who did it in a sense where like it was the
Mhm.
people who went to the background they went to cotillion, they were all in certain sports, they hung out with the same people, they very much stayed in within their circle versus like someone like me who didn't come from that stuff. It's very hard to keep up with them, and it's very hard,
Yeah.
you feel excluded a lot of the times. And even now in college there's a lot of times where um, like you do feel excluded because you're just like I know y'all aren't doing it intentionally, but it's more of I can't keep up with
Yeah.
y'all.
So I wanted to touch on that. So for like during the college process, because I always like think about this, like my experience applying and your experience applying like to college was probably very different than someone who was part of that like economic background that like they had cotillion and then they go to camp. So like how did you go through that process of applying to college? Like what was that like for you? Like in terms of like getting information for scholarships and like applying, like how was that process for you?
So I actually went to community college the first 2 years. And so I
Okay.
knew that by the time I was my senior year of high school, and I didn't apply to any schools
Yeah.
besides my community college, obviously. And so
Hmm.
while I was there, I did a lot of my academics, and I was very, very close with a lot of the faculty there. I mean, extracurriculars, not
Hmm.
academics. I did a lot of extracurriculars like student government, and so that really helped me get close to a lot of the faculty. And I absolutely love this faculty to
Yeah.
this day. I like when I graduated with my associates, one of them even sent me a text message, and she was just like, "Oh, I'm so proud of you. Like you work so hard."
Aw.
Yeah, and so that was really nice. And when it came time to actually apply for the transferring process, it's a little different for freshmen versus transfers. So I didn't need like stuff like
Okay.
SAT scores or anything, luckily, because I did not do that great.
Mm.
Um, but I did do an essay
Happens.
over and over again because like I did it like maybe like 5 or 6 times because one like you have to make 2 essays to get in, and I just wanted
Yeah.
to get it right because like there's only a certain amount of information you can put. And so that was rough because I was like, how do you tell your own story within like basically one page? Like you only really get one page. And
Your
I
admissions
paid
essay.
60 $70 for applications. I applied to 3 schools. I got into 2 of them. I applied to the schools I knew specifically that were going to give me scholarships. So at my school, if your parents make under a
Yeah.
certain amount, you get school free. So I think it's like under 60,000. I think if your parents make, and so they cover it as
Okay.
long as you apply in time. And so I've been able to get with that, and that's what's been paying my
That's
schools.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that they don't always talk about all the extra stuff too. About like, I mean, at my school, for example,
Oh
we have
yeah.
ring day, which is like huge. I know most schools have like class rings, but like at A&M, that's like if you get your ring, you're an Aggie. Like it's just the biggest thing in the world. And so that itself, I know for girls, that's like I paid like $800 for that, and then for guys, I know it's like $2,000. And so I did have to take out a loan, like a
That's wild.
small short loan for that, and just because like I wanted to be able to say I got it, and so many people have told me like that ring can
Yeah.
get you jobs. People see you have that ring, they want to talk to you, and they want to hire you because they know you're from a good school.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's like hard keeping up
That's crazy.
financially, and like I just paid for my senior photos. I'm waiting to get them back, but that's like another thing too. Everyone does senior photos. They do
Yeah.
your ring dunk, you do graduation parties.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's so much to keep up with, and there are times where, especially last semester when I kind of first really came to College Station, I was just kind of lost and I was very burnt out because I was doing 6 classes. I was in like 3 or 4 orgs. I was doing like a small time internship, and I was just like all over the
Oh my
place.
gosh. Yeah.
Yeah, so I broke down like crying so many times because I was like, oh my god, I'm doing
Oh my
so much,
gosh.
and on top of that, like I'm paying for my own car insurance, my own bills, and everything, and
It's different. It's
yeah,
a
and
different it's a different experience like what you're going through than like, and I don't say that to like make people like pity you or anything like that, but I just say it so like people know that it's like your experience, my experience is a completely different experience than the average student. And I'm not saying because like your classes are harder or maybe you're doing more, but I think like what people don't understand, it's like the fact that you're going to school and you don't have the security blanket that other people do. Like it's like if I fail this class, like I have to pay for this class. My parents are, it's like such a different feeling of like you almost like you're like I'm doing this for like my parents, I'm doing this for so much that it's like so much pressure almost, and then you don't have that security, like it just adds so much stress to like the whole experience of college and like all of it, you know what I mean, because it's like more pressure on you.
yeah, it's all about building like the generational, as I call it, generational wealth and everything. And I think about it, it's
Hmm.
like if someone else doesn't know what they're doing after college or doesn't have a set plan, they usually have like a family to fall back on and everything. And I'm more of like, my
Yeah.
family's relying on me to be successful. I've heard it from my own
Mm.
sisters' mouth saying like, they have so much hope in me because they want me to be successful, and that like,
Oh my gosh, yeah.
yeah. And when you have someone saying like, oh, you're the last hope of the family, like one of them actually said that at one point, and I was just like, that is a lot of
Oh
pressure, and I
god.
don't want to miss them. And so I've been trying to do my best, but there are just times where you just get very frustrated and you're just kind of like, I need a break. And so
Yeah.
I've tried to take more time out, and kind of slow down because I do suffer from like burnout all the time. So I've tried to like slow down a little bit
Hmm.
with it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I feel like you're like telling me all of this and it's like giving me like PTSD. Cause I like went through all of that and it's just like, yeah, it's just a different type of pressure. And like, I think a lot of times too, like with roommate, like, do you live alone or do you have
I
roommates?
have 4 other roommates.
Yeah, like a lot of times I felt like I couldn't really relate to my roommates because like even though my roommates were like Latinas and they were the same thing, they were all from Miami. They were like their parents had money. It was like the same thing. It was just like it was I couldn't really like give them that pressure because it's almost like you don't want to bring it up because it's almost like, oh well, like I still have like a lot of pressure to be successful. It's like everyone does, but it's almost like when it's like coming from your parents of like I want to make money or be successful because I want to support my mom or I need to help them pay the bills or I need to like pay them back for like even like giving me this opportunity. You know what I mean? It's almost like I
Mm-hmm.
have to pay them back. So it's like, yeah, it's just it's a hard thing to like talk to about with other people that are not going through the same thing.
Yeah, no,
So
it's
did that
Sorry.
Did that affect like your no, it's okay. Has that like affected your, your experience?
Yeah, no, honestly, I think that's the biggest thing. That's the one reason why. And like, I have anxiety, and I do like, try to take precautions, journal, all that stuff people have told you to do, but it still comes in social situations that almost feels like there's like something written on your forehead that says like I'm struggling, like look at me.
Yeah.
And when you walk into a room of people
Struggling
that are,
mentally.
yeah, like you walk into a room of people that some people have been at this school for like 5 generations, and they come from very wealthy families and very
Mhm.
like just up there. And when I walk into a room, sometimes I do get very intimidated because like I don't have any of those credentials. My parents don't know anything about college besides like you go to school, like that's it, that's all they know.
Yeah.
And I remember like one
Yeah.
time when it came to like financial stuff, I was in a meeting. It was like an alcohol awareness meeting or something like that. And one of the officers was trying to say how, getting a DUI can affect your car insurance. And he asked everybody in the room, which is like all girls, it was like 100 of us. They're like, okay, how many of y'all
Mhm.
pay your own car insurance? And I was like the only hand in the room that got raised. And I was just like, that's incredible. So if I have any trouble paying my dues for
Wow.
the semester, y'all know why, because I'm the only one who pays my car insurance.
That's crazy. And I think like it's hard because like when you're in that situation, like yeah, like you're saying, like, oh, people tell you like do this, do that. But it's like to feel like you have a right to be there just like everyone else. It's just like you feel you're gonna feel like you stick out no matter what. Like, it's so hard because it's like, yeah, you're like, oh my God, and I've never, no one's even ever been to college in my family. Like, I don't know if like you're the first person to even go to college. Like my mom went to college in Venezuela, but like
Mhm.
at least she went to college. Like, I don't know if your parents went to college. So if that experience is just like so different, you don't know what to expect. Like no one can prepare you for that and like how different your situation is going to be to others. But like, I will say it's like, even though you think it's written on your forehead, it's not. Like you deserve to be there. And I always say to people like you can't like don't live your life like based on like what your parents have done or like what legacy you have. Like live your life based on like what you're gonna create for yourself, because it's like no one gives a shit about what happened 20 years ago. Like people care about what's happening now. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. See, now that's a good way, and that's what I try to think
you
about.
belong there.
That is the
I'm like,
most
you
blessing
belong
thing to
there.
say,
Do
because
you have to
like for the
say that?
longest time, I didn't
Yeah.
feel like I did, and that was one thing I literally talked about with my friends.
Mhm.
I think literally 2 days ago, where I was just like all these girls have known
Yeah.
each other since freshman year, and they all, can afford certain things and do certain things, and
Yeah.
it's not that they're necessarily mean. It's just the difference, and it's hard to feel like you belong somewhere when you know the difference clearly. Maybe they can't see it, but like the
Yeah.
difference. Because I remember growing up, there were times where,
Yeah.
like for example, if I got invited to a birthday party when I was growing up, I wasn't allowed to go because we couldn't afford
Mhm.
giving someone a gift, and so it was just things like that
Oh
that
God,
like
yeah.
yeah, when things like
Mhm.
that happen to you, you start to feel as if like it's very obvious or it's going to affect you the rest of your life. And I've worked very, very hard. I've had a job since I was like 15, and I've pretty much nonstop like been working.
I was like trying to clap.
But I've been trying to work really hard into like to I guess prove myself, but
Yeah.
I've come to find out the more I try to prove myself, the more I feel like, incompleted. Because I remember last semester I got
Yeah.
into a conference for Princeton, a business conference, and that was like amazing. I was like super honored. But like
Yeah.
a week after I got my like acceptance email though, I was kind of like, okay, well, what's next? Because that's not big of a deal. Like you can do something better. And I think that's like a
But
huge
that's
thing.
the thing though. It's like you're saying like, oh, I'm trying to prove it to other people, but like you're trying to prove it to yourself too, is almost like a way like it's like I know I can do it, like I'm gonna do it. And like that's not a bad thing to have, right? If you like change the perspective of like, okay, yeah, I'm trying to prove myself to others, but like really you're trying to prove it to yourself, like I can do this, like you know that you can do it. And it's like you have that mentality. And I will always say this, like I talk about this with my boyfriend all the time because he's the same thing, like similar backgrounds. Like his parents are from Colombia, like they don't have money, like they just don't know how to build wealth. They have no understanding. Like his parents have no understanding of like what it means to save, what it means to not live like day to day.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like not something that they know, and they didn't teach him that either. And I will always say it's like people like us, people who have to work, like people who don't have that security blanket, we're the people who build dreams. We're the people who like innovate. We're the people that do more, because it's like we have to do it because it's like a survival thing. It's not just like, oh, I want to do this. It's like, no, like I have to do this. So
Yeah,
it sets a different tone.
it
And I'm
does
telling you,
really.
like, you're gonna get so much farther just because of all those struggles that you've had to deal with, like all of those little things that like slowly it's like, oh, it's like almost like you have like cement stuck to your foot. Like at the end of the day, like your legs are gonna be way stronger than someone that's just like,
Okay, I've never
prancing
heard that
through
saying, but I
life.
like it. I like that. But I think
It's
that's
true.
entirely true because I actually did see something where it's like, people who are given environments to survive versus thrive experience very different mindsets and have very different lifestyles, obviously. And, one of the
Mm-hmm.
examples is like going to show how, like, for example, many immigrant parents, like I asked my dad one time, I was like, what did you want to be? Because he's straight from Mexico. He actually moved here when he was like 14 to go work in the fields of
Yeah.
California. He didn't, go past middle school.
Wow.
Yeah, and he came to this country probably speaking like no
Different
English,
time.
and now, I mean, he's decent. But I
Yeah.
asked him one time, I was like, what did you want to be when you were younger? And he's like, honestly, I never had a chance to think about it. And, he's just telling me in Spanish that he's like, yeah, like it's just, you don't get a chance. When you don't get a chance, you just work and work and work.
Yeah.
And that just made me so sad because I was just like, I at least was lucky enough to have a dream of what I wanted to be. And
Yeah.
I just can't imagine just not being able to even imagine a better life for yourself.
Like you're just doing something to make money because you need to survive. Like you're not necessarily like picking like something that you're passionate about, or like, that gets you going. Yeah. It's like such a different time too. But like also like, with that being said, I always was like, it's hard because I feel like, especially like Hispanic, like Latino mentality is like, you need to be a doctor, you need to be a lawyer, like you need to be something that makes you money. But it's like, I don't know. I mean, yes and no. I feel like nowadays, like you could make money in so many things. Like
Mm-hmm.
you could find a way to make money in what you're passionate about, like 100%.
Yeah.
As long as you're like about your shit. You know
Yeah,
what I
that's the
mean?
biggest
Like,
thing. Like, you have to be like a definitely like a self starter and entrepreneur and all that stuff. And it's just harder to explain that too, though. Like my dad, he owns his own business, but it's nothing like it's very small business. And
yeah.
I want to go into the business field too. But he's like, oh, what is your first job going to offer? Like at least three figures, right? And I was just, or what is it, 100K or something? And I was like, yeah, dad.
Yeah, like at least 6 figures.
Yeah, and I was just like, it's so hard to explain the concept of how you actually like there's so much I think it's like nepotism, I think that's what they call it, when it comes to
Mm.
entering the workforce. And
I actually don't know. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, I was like, wait, do I know what that word means?
yeah,
I
I
just,
just like
it
found out what
clicked
the
when you
actual
said it.
term
Yeah.
was. But yeah, like just having to compete with other people, because I remember I even looked on a job thread one time. I was like, how did you land your first job? Because I wanted advice, and most people were saying, honestly, I just got it
Mhm.
from my like father's dad or something, or like friend's dad or something like that. And I was
Mhm.
like, that
And if
makes.
you know people.
Yeah, it's all about who you know. I actually had someone tell me that in HR one
Mhm.
time when I was like interviewing. She's like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's not really about what you know, it's about who you know. And especially because it was located in California when I was like interviewing. And she's like, especially in this state, like everything's all about who you know.
Who you know. 100%. It's so true. And it's hard. It's hard navigating that like when you're graduating. Like I mean, I remember like during that time of like, yeah, I was about to graduate and like feeling like, oh my God, I don't have something lined up. I don't have an internship. I don't have something lined up. Like, what am I going to do? Because I like basically forced myself to study like biology and like science, because in my head, I was like, I have to do something with like science because like that's going to make me money. It's going to make me successful. Didn't use any of that. I mean, I'm fine now, but it was like a journey. But I remember feeling like, oh my gosh, like, am I a failure because I don't have like an internship lined up? Or like, or you have these expectations of like, I'm graduating, I'm gonna have a job, I'm gonna immediately make money. And it's like, it's not always so, smooth.
Hmm.
And it's okay if it's not, it's just life sometimes, but you just gotta keep going, you'll
Yeah.
eventually find your path, your little groove.
Yeah, and that's what I've been trying to do because I think at first when I was younger I did want to be a doctor too and like go into science because that's what my parents said, like that makes a lot of money. And then as I got older I was like, I don't like
Yeah.
science. I'm not a big fan of math. I like talking to people and I like creative stuff. And so that's kind of like the fields I've been trying to get into. But I think it's super important that we emphasize that,
Good.
especially like with the newer generations. I just hope like the next generation, when we all have kids, they're just like so loved with like, you can do anything you want in this world. Like, you know?
Hopefully. I always say I'm like I want to like give my kids love but also like a little hardship because if they don't have like if you don't have a little hardship in your life, I just feel like you're just too like then you don't know any like I don't know. I've like met people like even people in my family like that are just like they were given too much
Mm-hmm.
and like they're just given everything and so they just have kind of like that no like they don't have that chispa like they don't have that like fire that like hunger like no this is what I want to do or like I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna get it and I'm gonna do everything in my power to get it like they're just kind of like oh yeah I'm cool with this like yeah this is good
Yeah.
and it's like I feel like you need a lot of love but you need a little hardship too
Yeah. And I think it helps build
to like
character and
give
like
you that spark.
understanding too, because like, you know, I think it's a lot easier to
Mhm.
understand someone's own struggle if you've been through that versus like you've never had a struggle in your life. Like it's how, you know, it's hard to sympathize as much.
Yeah, 100%. Dang. So, okay, so what did you go to school for? Like, where are you in your life? Like, do you like what you chose?
I do.
Honestly.
So I'm a communications
Okay.
major, and I know everyone says like you do
Okay.
communications because you don't know what you want to do, and that is true. That is the reason why I chose it.
Okay. Oh, I'm dead. Okay. You're
But
like accurate.
yeah, because like I knew what it was kind of about, and I was like, well, I'm pretty good with talking with people, and I'm comfortable with it, and you know I like figuring out how people kind of work a little bit, and I've been able to do that. And luckily with communications, it's such a broad degree that I've been able to specialize in like marketing and public relations, and so that's really what I've been loving to do because I think it's so much fun to see something grow from like really small business to like a huge thing.
I mean, that whole communications, marketing, social media, PR, like that's a huge industry. Like that's never going to go away. Never.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of money in that industry. You just got to find like the right one.
Yeah, no, it's been
So,
good, great because like I noticed. I think I got into it honestly because I noticed I was on my phone so much, and I was like, well, maybe I can use this to my benefit because I'm on my phone too much, and which has been great because now I know so
yeah.
many of like the memes and like the stuff and the news going around that I'm able to like help my managers like figure out the best decision and all that stuff.
And there's so many resources now too. Like I wish there was TikTok back then, like to like inform me on like things like there's so much career advice too on like those platforms and like
Mm-hmm.
where to like find conferences and like how to connect with people, like how to meet those people even
Mm-hmm.
if you don't have the background. Like there's a lot of like good resources out there. So yeah, that's a good major. I feel like the more general, the better, because at the end of the day, it's like your experiences are what's gonna like start niche like niching.
Yeah.
Can't say that word. Niching you down like naturally to like what you actually want to do.
Oh yeah, and there are
Like the
tons of
more
people I've talked to who like they got a degree in one thing and then like 10 years later they're in an entirely different field. And so,
me,
yeah, I was gonna say, wasn't
me
that
right here.
you?
I'm like, I literally studied biology, and then I was like, oh, I'm gonna do a gap year to like really like I really need to know that I want to do this before I like take on all these loan debts because like no one else is going to pay these bills.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, yeah, I don't want to do this. Like I literally was like, I saw how much it was and the whole application process. I'm like, I don't want to do this. And then I just kind of like I like found one good job in sales. I got experience. It was like so tragic that job, but it like taught me so much. Now I have a great job as a recruiter.
See,
I didn't even know recruiting was a thing.
neither did
Like,
I until so I get a
I
whole bunch
mean,
of like LinkedIn like messages from them.
there's so many. I mean, there are some really like recruiter jobs that are hard to like start, but like I do like healthcare recruiting, so it's like great industry. It's not going away. Like, but it's like you don't know. And like at the end of the day, like, is this where I'm gonna end up?
Mm-hmm.
Probably not. Like, but I get to like do other things like this podcast. Like, it's not your life is not like one linear path. Like, I mean, there are some people that are like that, but if it's not, like, it's okay.
Yeah, and I
you know.
definitely I mean, I agree with that just because, like, I always say this all the time. Like, we're so focused on, like, being successful and working and all this stuff. I feel like sometimes we as just a whole population, we don't give ourselves enough time to be human. Like only if you're really, really, really rich
Yeah.
can you be human and like have time to relax. That's it. Like Jeff Bezos, like that.
And not even, well, yeah, like that rich, but like even that rich, oh my God, there's so many issues. I feel like every time the more money I make, it's like more things pop up. I'm like, oh Jesus. I'm like,
Yeah, so
more
many
money, more
things.
problems is a real thing.
That was me when I got a
It's a
car. I was
real
like,
thing.
well, who's gonna tell me a car is this expensive? Nobody told me that.
Nobody gave me the instructions to any of this.
Literally.
Oh my gosh. Wait, so I did want to like circle back because I know obviously you said like your experience was tough and like I can completely relate to you and I feel like so many people will too like listening to this. I wanted to like touch on like were there any like specific experiences that you went through in college where like you felt like an actual like specific event that was like dang that like rubbed me the wrong way or like wow I feel so uncomfortable by this like or like anybody that like yeah like any like moment that you're like wow I feel so out of place or like wow like that was like so like upsetting like something that like happened like that.
In college, so far, I'm not gonna lie, I do hang out with mostly minorities. I haven't really expanded by that, just
Okay,
because, like, you
yeah.
know, when you find your circle, I go to like I think what 60 or 70% mostly white school, and so when I go
Oh
into
wow,
yeah
so
when
you
I go
find
into
your people.
classrooms, every once in a while you do hear someone like say something like, "Well, I think like this should be legal or illegal and this and that," and so when it comes to those situations, like if it's going to affect my grade, I try to be very civil. But there hasn't been like a singular experience, luckily, because I've only been here for so long. But definitely, like growing up,
Yeah,
there were like different experiences from that, and that's I think why I developed such a mindset of because there was a time in my life where I was like, okay, I don't want to be Mexican. I want to be like I want to be white because that's what seemed like the
really.
prettiest, most successful, popular girls, and so there was a time where I was very like ashamed of my own Mexican side, and I've been able to kind of grow from that. And so that's a big thing
And
I told
embrace
myself.
it.
Yeah, I've
Yeah,
been trying to tell myself in college, like I want to
it's a
really
beautiful
embrace who I
thing
am.
when you finally get there.
Yes, and it's so weird because sometimes I see other girls almost going through like the same phase as I call like wanting to be a white girl phase, like, and I'm like,
Yeah.
one day you'll be saved. Like, it's just one of those things you have to figure out for yourself.
One day you will come into grace and saving grace. Oh my gosh, I can relate to that so much. And it's like, honestly, like with everything going on right now, like, uh, I don't, it's such a weird time because everyone's so like polarized in like their
Mm-hmm.
opinions. It's so weird. Like, everyone has like such a drastic opinion that it has to be like one or the other. But I agree with what you're saying that it's like, I don't think anyone can really understand like unless you're a minority you don't understand like that feeling of like oh I am I not like pretty enough or it's like oh because this is like this is what I see on like social media, right? I see all these like pretty white girls or like this is what I see in like the dolls, like even like those things, like seeing a doll, like
Mm-hmm.
all your dolls are Barbies and like blonde hair. It's like all of those things like stick to you in your head and you start to think like, okay, am I the one that's like weird? Like, am I the weird looking one? Like, is this why do it's like and
Mm-hmm.
little it's like little features and it's hard and no one really understands that it's like that feeling of like wait why do I look like this like am I not pretty enough and like I feel like yeah it's like that process of like understanding like hey no like you're so beautiful like you have no idea like how beautiful you are and like the things that make you different
Mm-hmm.
so I'm so glad you're on this side yay.
No, literally everything you're saying, like I totally like I get that because growing up, I had a friend who is like she was half white, half Mexican, but she definitely was very like
Mhm.
white passing, blonde hair, light skin. And next to me, I was very much introverted and more shy. But in general, I remember
Yeah.
like all the guys, if they, I was like the duff. I was like if the guys wanted to talk to her, they'd talk to me. Even elementary school, they'd be like, "Can you tell your friend
Oh,
like this
that's
and
so
that?"
rude.
Yeah, and I noticed that if
Oh,
guys did try to
wow.
talk to us, like they'd mainly be focused on her. If they talked to me, it was just to
Yeah.
talk to her. And so that was something that like I was like, well, I don't want to wear glasses anymore. I want to dye my hair blonde. I want to lose some weight And it was a tough time. Middle
Yeah.
school was a very tough time. And I think that's for everybody, but especially if you're a minority, because like you just see how everyone changes, and it's usually towards a more of like
Yeah.
Eurocentrized standard of beauty.
It's definitely hard, and like I grew up in an area that was like very, very Hispanic, like
Mm-hmm.
Puerto Rican, Colombian, like everything. Like, so I never felt like I was the odd one, but like even so, like imagine you were actually in an area that was like predominantly white. Like I was in an area that's predominantly Hispanic, and even then, just by like what's on TV, like the girls that are on TV, like the models, like, you know, like the influencers that are popular, like those all I would see was like the popular girls were like, oh, like they're not in school, but like in like, you know what I mean, in social media and like
Mm-hmm.
music, and like it was all like American white girls. So you just like develop this complex of like, oh, I'm not good enough. And yeah, I remember in college too, I even felt that I was like I would go to frat parties, and like I remember, oh my gosh, I have to talk about this because it was like it was a good thing, but when it happened, I was like, wait, what the hell? Like I remember I went to my first frat party with my friend Tatiana, love her. If she listens to this, she's amazing. And we both went to a frat party. Tatiana's like black. She's gorgeous. She has like the best cheekbones. She's just like beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
and we're both like super cute. We're walking into the frat like party, and we're like, oh my gosh, we're super incognito. There's literally all white people, but I'm like, I never have felt like in my head, I'm not like I have it on, like I know I'm brown obviously, but I've never felt like uncomfortable going to like an all white party. Like I'm just friends with everyone. I never had that complex. And then I walked in and I was like, oh, first frat party. Like we went to go get beers, and these two guys like come up to us and they're like, so you're like new here. I've never seen you here before. And then after, I was like, that's weird. And then I was just like looking around. And I was like, Tatiana, we're the only people here that are like brown. I was like, how did we not realize that? So it's like little things like that you're like, oh God, like, is that weird? Like, is it weird that I'm the only brown one? Like, it's just, you know what I mean? Like, you don't think about it, but it's like, those are things that other girls like don't have to really like experience or like, you know,
Yeah, no, literally, unless it's
that's
like a
all.
professional setting or like something that's to, I don't want to say benefit, but like help me and all that stuff. Like if I walk into a party and I'm the only like, not white person there, and I'm pale, so that says something. Um, I'm gonna be
Yeah.
like, yeah, I gotta go. Like this is not the party for me. And that's like not discriminating towards anyone. It's just like, it's a comfortability feeling. And a lot of times, at least at my school
You
is,
feel it. Yeah.
yeah, and my school is very conservative. And
Yeah.
most of the time if I do walk into one of those parties, I know that like a lot of their opinions over certain things are going to be very strong, and some of them do get a little when they're drunk or whatever, and I'm just like, I'd rather be in a space where I'm
Yeah. They rub
comfortable.
you the wrong way.
Yeah.
I get you. Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. And it's like those are the things like no one really warns you about when you go to college. Like, I don't know. I didn't really to be honest, I didn't like ever expect it. Like I was like, "Oh, I'm so excited for this experience." And then you get there and it's like you do feel that and it's
Mm-hmm.
like, "Whoa, didn't think this was going to be something that I have to go through." But yeah, it's like I don't think enough people talk about it, but it is true, and it's something that every minority will experience until it's like more of like an equal playing field. You know, it's like
Mm-hmm.
it's just we're all kind of mixed in there together. But it's still definitely you feel like a minority when you go to like big universities. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Texas A&M is a huge university, so
Yeah. Yeah, no, and
yeah.
just being around everyone, like I mean, it's getting used to it, but it's also just like observing and being like, wow, I wish
Mhm.
like we had more representation here or there and this and that. So I try to see areas and just hope for the best.
But honestly, like that's amazing, and like even with your career, it's like I don't know. That's always like a driving factor for me. Like, I want to, like, that's why I do like social media. That's why I do a podcast. It's like, I want more Latinas. I want more women like me to be represented and like be like, hey, no, like, we can be successful too. Like, we can have all these things too.
Mm-hmm.
So, even in your career, like, yeah, you have to, it gives you more like of a good feeling too. It's like, wow, like, I'm representing like not just myself, like, but like a whole community, you know?
Yeah, and that's a big thing for me too, and that's the reason why like I feel like again like it drives me and it makes me want to keep doing better and doing more stuff and share my story. And that's a big thing too. I feel like even just like talking about any struggle sometimes feels almost like embarrassing or shameful. But then,
Yeah.
as time I kind of realized like I wanted to talk about it because it helped me, but then I knew it was also probably going to help somebody else. And so now I try to talk about it when I'm able to.
Yeah, 100%. You have to. It's so crazy because like before I entered like the whole space of like, like personal development and like I was just kind of like going through life, like, like I
Mm-hmm.
don't know, you just get like lost in like whatever, you just get lost like just doing your daily things. Um I would always think that like I would have to hide all my problems. Like, oh no, everyone has to think that I'm like perfect. Like I have no issues. Like I have all the money. Like I have this. And it's like now I'm like such an open book. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. Or like, yeah, I like talk about all the things that I've gone through because it's like that's what makes you you. Like literally, like you are the person that you are today because of all those things. Like, why should you hide that?
No,
You
literally,
know?
that's it. And I don't know if you agree with that too, because I feel like my family did, but they're also like, don't tell people that. Like, you can't tell people you have money problems. You can't tell people
Oh,
this.
I feel like that's a Hispanic thing. Like
Yeah.
so private. Like, no, you have to make it look like we have all this money. We're so successful. Like, we're good. We're good.
Yeah. And so, like, really getting out of that mindset was the hardest thing. Cause I think one of my friends, he's like, why don't you talk about your like problems? Like, why didn't you tell me this? Cause I think I told him something about my life like 2 years after it happened. And he was just like, why would you wait? And I was like, well, like, I was just raised not to talk about that type of stuff. Like, you only talk about it if you absolutely have to.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Dang. So, all right. So, I guess like for someone that's like about to start university or college, or even someone that like feels like that, like they're out of place, like, do you have like advice that you would want to give them? Like something that like helped you, get through it?
Probably two things. These are like my two favorite quotes. I think Gina Rodriguez said this one, but she's like, you can and you will. And I love that because it's like just knowing
I
that
love
you
that.
can do something is so like, it's empowering because you always question, like, oh, can I do
Yeah.
this? Am I doing this right? Blah, blah, blah. So that's definitely like one thing you just constantly have to tell myself. I have that written down. And whenever I feel like upset, I
Yeah.
literally just tell myself, I'm like, you can and you're gonna. Like, there's no other way, there's no other option.
I love that.
And then the other thing I like you said about being the first and kind of like being Latina and all that stuff, in different fields. And one of the other quotes I love is that be the change you wish to see in this world. And so that's something I really try to live by. And so like one of the organizations I'm a part of is like
Hmm.
about empowering women, and we go out and we try to help like domestic violence shelters, and we go out and advocate for like certain things. And that's something I really try to say like find something that you're very passionate about and you want to see change in this world, and if you follow that and you're always telling yourself like you can and you're gonna, like there's no way you're gonna fail.
I love that. I can and I will. Like it's so true. Like just telling yourself, like it's like I can do this. Like, oh my God. Literally those words have so much power, and like it's so true. Like you have to live your life with everything. It's like I almost like tell my boyfriend, like I'm like delusional sometimes. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do that. Like I'm gonna make it happen. But it's like you say it so much, it's like you just start making choices and life just starts to
Mm-hmm.
like unfold in the way that you're saying it will. And it's scary, but it's so true. Like your mindset's like
Yeah, that's like the biggest thing. Like once you change your mindset, nothing is impossible.
100%. Oh my gosh, well, I love that. That's great advice, and like, yeah, that's super helpful. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to see what you're gonna do
I know, I'm very excited to find out
with
too.
your career. We have to stay in touch.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, please.
You're like, stay tuned.
We'll find out.
We'll find out. You're like, it's a surprise to me too.
Honestly, at this point, I'm just throwing
Oh my
shots in the
gosh,
dark,
I
but I
love
know something's gonna hit. So
Yeah, and like also it's like it's so weird, but sometimes it's you think like you get disappointed, like ah, something's not like happening. But like I always say, it's like what will be for you will be for you. Like
mm,
that shit will happen, like what's meant to be, and like even if it's some bad stuff, like it's all part of it. So I'm super excited, and like you seem like such a hard worker, and like you seem like a very kind soul. Like things are gonna unfold for you, and I'm so excited.
oh, thank
So
you so much. It's been such a blessing to talk to you, and I love like just connecting other people and like knowing you have a shared experience, because like I get, it's hard to talk about with somebody unless like you really get on that subject, and so be able to talk about this hopefully helps somebody else out there.
Exactly. Yay. So where can our listeners find you if they want to
Um,
follow
for
you?
Instagram, I'm on Gabrielle, or no, it's just Gabby Gonzalez with like three Z's at the end and one B. So,
Yes. And we'll tag her too, so you guys can go give her some love. Yay. Oh, well, thank you so much for coming on. And yeah, this is great. I'm so glad that we got to talk. I'm like, yay.